Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing today? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is Three Buck Theater, and this is an interesting video to put together because I don't have any direct evidence of what I'm going to talk about, and I just want to be upfront with you guys. This is a theory. This is a speculation, but I think the two are very much connected. And I'm talking about Ray Fisher and Ellen DeGeneres. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about here, when in regards to Ray Fisher, he came out recently and made accusations against Joss Whedon. In fact, he came out just a little bit ago and he accuses Joss Whedon, Jon Berg, and Geoff Johns of unprofessional behavior while on the set of Justice League during the reshoots. And he says that he was abusive and unprofessional. And he said a lot of other things that are vague. And you know what? There are people out there that aren't a big fan of how vague they are. But I do understand why he has to keep it that vague because, well, at an interview at JusticeCon last week, he actually talked a bit about that. And he did say here, look, if Joss Whedon is so worried about everything, if Joss Whedon has nothing to hide, if Joss Whedon is feeling defamed or he's feeling like there's been slander or libel, he is free to sue him if he wants to, which is a very bold proclamation. It's like, look, I'm standing up to this person. I'm speaking my truth. If he thinks that this is defamation, he's got every right to come on out and sue me if he wants to. And that's that's a very bold statement to make, and one that's gotten Ray Fisher a lot of support with the hashtag I support Ray Fisher. And then, of course, there is the other side of that that's calling him a diva and a liar and all of these angles. And quite frankly, we don't know anything yet because they're still doing an investigation. But here's actually why it's fascinating, because look, the investigation that's being handled for Ray Fisher looking into Joss Whedon, and it's not just from what he alluded to at the JusticeCon panel. It had more to do with getting people to go on record, but even doing it anonymously, meaning probably staff that were working on the movie, crew members working on the movie, as well as potentially other actors, like maybe some of the bigger ones like Gal Gadot or Jason Momoa or Ben Affleck or Ezra Miller or anyone on those lines that are going to come out and then say something about Joss Whedon and the behavior of Geoff Johns and Jon Berg and Joss Whedon on the set. Now, Jon Berg has come out and made some really weird statement about how like Ray Fisher was difficult to work with. That's my interpretation, by saying he didn't want to use the catchphrase "booyah," which was popular in the animated show. Although Berg had said that it was popular in the comics, but that is the reality. It's popular in the animated show, and Ray himself has said he doesn't want to be reduced down to a catchphrase. And that is something that is understandable, but I think it's also kind of like the least of the issues, if you want my mind. I think like him saying "booyah," it's a catchphrase, dude. Like, it's not a big deal. Merchandise is a large part of these movies. No matter what the movie is, merchandise has got to accompany it in one way or another, because that's how they make a lot of money on the back end in order to warrant paying for more of these movies. So that's my criticism of what Ray Fisher had kind of complained about via Jon Berg. But that, again, that's a light criticism. But at the heart of the issue, at the heart of the issue is talking about abusive, unprofessional behavior. You might be asking yourself, well, what does it have to do with Ellen DeGeneres? Well, Ellen DeGeneres has also been accused of abusive, unprofessional behavior. And this actually goes back to April of this year, when Variety ran an article titled "Ellen Crew Furious Over Poor Communications Regarding Pay Non-Union Workers During Coronavirus Shutdown." To give you guys a summary of that story, when Ellen went off air because of Corona, she started broadcasting from home. Instead of paying her crew to come and work for her, to come to her house and work for her, she actually hired non-union workers to go to her home and set up a show. And that was a big deal. You don't really want to mess with the unions in Hollywood. And that was only really the tip of the iceberg, because not long after that, we got this story that came out July. So just about 2.5 months later, that was saying, hey, look, the Ellen DeGeneres Show, workplace under investigation by WarnerMedia. And that's actually what I really want to focus on here. WarnerMedia is also handling the investigations from Ray Fisher, or the allegations from Ray Fisher, into Joss Whedon, Jon Berg, and Geoff Johns. And they're also coming out and handling this for Ellen DeGeneres. And this is actually really awesome if you think about it. Like, I'm actually like really surprised by this, because WarnerMedia is actually stepping up and looking into abusive, unprofessional behavior in Hollywood. The Me Too movement took over in regards to sexual harassment and sexual abuse, and it dominated that conversation for years, as it should. As it should. But there is still a lot of psychological, mental abuse that happens in regards to the Hollywood system without ever resorting to anything sexual. And that's a lot of what's going on with Ellen DeGeneres, although there is definitely things involving sexual harassment as well. I don't want to undercut that. But this is what, she comes out and she gives this emotional apology to staff, saying that she made mistakes and that she definitely screwed up and that she had a show she wanted to do her way and she trusted people to take care of it that way. But apparently when she kind of checked out as the overall manager of the show and just took her place as being the host, the amount of abuse that kind of piled up underneath her went overlooked, which is either negligence, laziness, or complacency. I'm not too sure, but I do feel that based upon the result, what I've heard about her, what I've read about her, from not only in that BuzzFeed article a couple months back, but even reports coming out online once that whole non-union story broke, where people were like, F her, we're going to speak up. She's a horrible monster of a human being. What you see on TV is not who she is. In fact, there have been a lot of celebrities that have come on her show that have come away saying she kind of a C word, and that's kind of what this is. Now, what I love here is executive producer Ed Glavin expected to depart. This is just the first domino, right? Whenever a scandal like this happens, there's always going to be a person that ends up being the fall guy. And in this case, it's Ed Glavin is the first one to fall. And so even right now, what we're hearing is that Ellen DeGeneres is looking potentially to quit the show. Those rumors came out yesterday. Ellen DeGeneres quitting the show. Ellen DeGeneres moving on. She's walking away. The 62-year-old who makes, I think, like $70 million a year hosting the show for the last 17 years. I think she's done a long time. She's looking to walk away. Why? Because right now is the time for her to walk away. And let me explain why. So right now, while they're doing an investigation into Ellen, if they come and they uncover that she was aware or complacent or complicit with all of these situations that were happening, it's going to absolutely destroy her career and tarnish her image. If she walks away now, then she actually can salvage some dignity, salvage her image, and come back and work on something else. Because if she quits now, the investigation effectively dies. At least that's probably what she's thinking, and that's probably what she's contemplating, because we're hearing rumors today that James Corden is being looked at to come over and take over her 4 p.m. time slot. Okay? Really? You're gonna replace Ellen, an out lesbian progressive? I don't think she's progressive, but a liberal, with James Corden? I don't necessarily think James Corden's that good of a host. I'm not a big fan of him. But in this moment, I'm like, that seems kind of weird. Why not find somebody who's kind of more in that speed? But it really is someone who is relatable and someone who can get middle America housewives to tune in every day at 4 p.m. and give it a watch. That's what they want. They need someone wholesome like that. And Ellen gave that appearance for years, even though from all the reports, she's kind of a very horrible, despicable person. Now, where this comes back again to Ray Fisher, has everything to do with the fact that WarnerMedia is investigating this Joss Whedon situation, which tells me that there's probably enough smoke to look at this fire potentially to determine whether or not it's going to be something that needs to be acted upon, and whether or not it needs to be something that needs to have punishment brought against certain people. So the question then becomes, as this whole thing progresses, are we going to see Geoff Johns exit Stargirl, exit his company? Is Jon Berg going to move away, even though he at this point is working on his other projects? And yes, he is still tied to the DC world. Will he be removed from the DC world? Will he be let go from that position and just kind of transitioned into something else, demoted, if you will? And will Joss Whedon's show The Nevers, which is meant to premiere on HBO, I think sometime later on this year, will that be either delayed or will it be canceled after the first season, because HBO at that point doesn't want to continue working with Joss Whedon? The way that Ray Fisher puts it out there, quite frankly, is that it's probably going to be like the latter. There is enough here to at least bury these 3 people. But I'm really kind of curious to see what's going to happen next. The Ellen situation to me is kind of like a lead-in for what could be the Ray Fisher situation, where there's been enough reports about Ellen that WarnerMedia took it seriously to investigate, and this is what they've come up with, and she's looking to get the hell out before it gets even worse. And then if she leaves, how many other people are going to follow suit? and even in regards to WarnerMedia looking into the allegations by Ray Fisher, because keep in mind that WarnerMedia didn't exist back when they were doing the reshoots for Justice League. So this is all new things. This is all new information that's coming to them, and it's a potential HR nightmare, but they do seem to be backing Ray Fisher because he has made some statements that I don't think a lot of people think he was able to make without the blessing from WarnerMedia. So it does appear that there's something that's happening. These two are connected under that umbrella of investigations about abusive and unprofessional behavior in the workplace. And where things go now, I think, are going to be quite fascinating. And I don't know about you, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing where they go. And I'm hoping that Ellen's staff, who has been mistreated, and the people who worked for her who have been mistreated, that they get their justice. And I hope that Ray Fisher and all the other staff and crew members and actors that were on the reshoots of Justice League that felt slighted by Joss Whedon, Jon Berg, and Geoff Johns, if this is to have happened, get their justice as well. And I think that's kind of what WarnerMedia is doing. It's like WarnerMedia is the new sheriff in town, and they're going after bad players that are under their umbrella. And it's refreshing to say that. It's refreshing to see that. It's good that there are investigations that are taking place rather than just outright cancellations and firings. It shows that it's almost become a bit more of a mature environment after a few years of the Me Too movement. So it's fascinating to see, and I look forward to seeing where things go next. And as always, I do want to hear what you guys have to say about this. So let me know down in the comments below. Please leave your thoughts. Be sure to comment, subscribe, support the channel via Patreon for $1 per month, or become a channel member for $2 per month.